And hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex, and with me, my amazing, one of a kind co host,
Stephen Frederick Masick.
also known as Stephen the Medium. And today we are going to have an amazing show because we're going to, talk about something that many of us don't really fully appreciate, Stephen, until later in life. And that is life lessons in between the lessons. So I think this is going to be an awesome show. I know it's going to be an awesome show. And we have an awesome guest, Susan Chung Fontaine, who is a humanities educator and has been in education for over 50 years and just recently started a podcast called Between the Lessons. So we're going to have her when we start our second segment. But for now, Stephen, let's check in. How you doing?
How am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. Yeah.
That is not your Rhode Island accent. Say it now in the Rhode Island accent so that everyone can hear the difference.
Listen, I don't have any accent.
Okay,
I don't
Dave.
know where this is coming from. I know everyone who's listening was like, yeah, Stephen doesn't have an accent. No, he doesn't sound like he's from New York. No, not at all.
Our producer today, Dave, and I were just talking about Stephen's accent. But no, he doesn't have an accent. Go ahead. But how are you doing? How are you doing?
I am excellent. I'm really good. I'm busy. Today was a very busy day leading up to this show, and then you and I have a call at 3, which is everything's busy. But I'm teaching on teaching two things, a course and doing a mentorship, and I love it. And the stuff that we're going through a couple of days ago, Wednesday, we focused on telepathy, which was just so cool. And it blows my mind. It blows my mind about that. And it also, I have an individual person who I'm mentoring, who I love, and she's crazy connected. And right before we were finishing our session today, she had told me earlier that she was feeling somebody, and she just says, "Can you read this?" And she wrote down 7 things, and all about my dad. It was pretty wild. So I always say that mediums never get read, and so I got a reading, and so thank you.
That's pretty awesome. And Stephen, just for people who are listening, maybe perhaps people who are first-time listeners, you talk about courses that you do, you talk about mentoring. If anyone has an interest in this stuff, where would they find information, and how often do you do these courses, and where are they?
Well, all the info is on my website, stephenthemedium.com. You can take a look. And when I advertise when I'm going to do the courses. The mentorship, I don't have anything out there because I just don't have a lot of time. So maybe at some point I really actually should get something there because I love doing it, and it's one-on-one versus my courses that I do like Wednesday. It's a group of people, and they're all via virtual, but it's just for people who, most of them feel like they have some connection and they want to hone in on that skill. Some that just want to know, do they have a skill? And some that are at a higher level that are also wanting to get more well-versed in their gift.
And by the way, for those of you who just heard Stephen, he meant courses. He doesn't have an accent, but it's, courses.
All right. Is there anything else you need to get out? Maybe you should bring Dave back.
I'm
Just
sure
saying.
Dave is at the edge of the chair trying to chime in at some point.
And he's a Rhode Islander, too.
He sure is. That's right. That
Yes.
is absolutely right. So anyways, So, oh man, just because, see, Spirit is playing with me. Oh, no, I do get it. So, but you've said to me, Stephen, that just about everyone, we all have access to being connected, right?
Every person has a level of being intuitive. Every single person, yes.
So it's not, for I would say it's not just for people who think they have a special gift. I mean, sure, people who do think they know they have a special gift, but what I've learned from you is that we all have a gift.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a singer or say a piano player. If you line 10 people up, and let's just focus on singing, even if you don't sing, you never sang. If you take singing lessons, regardless if you've got a voice, right? If you can talk, you can get your singing voice better than it was before you started taking classes with like an instructor or so. It's going to get better. But there are those people that whether they have like teachers or instructors or so, maybe they do, maybe they don't, that end up like Barbra Streisand or Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter, like people that really have beautiful voices. So that's really the difference. Like, so everybody can sing, but depending on like what you have in your makeup determines what level of singing you get to. So there's always a progression, always. But it also depends on like where are you going to progress to in sort of like stay. And then there's some like myself who can see and talk and to dead people. So that's the difference.
And by the way, for those of you who are listening via our live stream, shout out to Heidi, Anna, and Dennis, who's also listening.
Hello,
I don't know where our
everybody.
friend Jonathan is, but we'll find out. Oh,
He's in Atlanta.
That's right, he's in Atlanta, so he should be listening.
He's a busy boy.
This radio show can be accessed anywhere in the world, so
Yeah, but well, listen. Before we get off the subject, let me just say quickly. I talked about this week. The class was about telepathy, and I got to tell you, what a fun class! Not only teaching about telepathy, and telepathy, if you don't know what it is, it's communicating with another entity without using the usual way of like a voice, or if you're in front of them and you're making movements or sign language. It really is just about using something other than your five senses to be able to communicate with somebody. So we did these couple of meditations and set us up, and it was pretty cool because I had everyone coming into class that they had some scenario in their head, like their favorite place, like if their happy place. And, we started with one of them just closing their eyes and really focusing on that happy place. And the rest of everyone else was connecting by telepathy and writing down what they were getting from this person. So the person is trying to send it to the group, and everyone in the group is trying to retrieve it. And then like I would just pick one person to give me what the notes were, and then the other person just talks about what their scenario was. None of us knew what the scenario was at all. It was really, really cool.
I love that, Stephen. That sounds interesting, and that is a way to polish those skills, right? That's why you do that.
There's no question. Anybody can do it at a very rudimentary level, if you will. You can be standing in the supermarket and be like 6 people deep or so waiting in line, and just focus on one person and just keep throwing to them mentally, turn around, just turn in my direction and see if it works. You'd be shocked. You'd just be shocked.
I believe it. I believe it. And Stephen, before we go into our first break and bring our guest in, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, the Super Bowl Sunday. And of course, people are probably on the edge of their seats. We're going to talk about the Patriots. And of course, we're rooting for the Patriots. But that's really not why we're so excited about the Super Bowl. The real reason we're so excited about the Super Bowl is because of Bad Bunny. Benito, I am going to be glued to the TV. Stephen and I were, we had the privilege to see him in concert in Puerto Rico live. Our seats were literally we could touch him. He is amazing. He is a force. And I cannot wait, Stephen.
I
And
can't either.
if you don't want to watch Bad Bunny, I'm telling you right now, we are not gonna be friends. It's not possible. So just I'm telling you that right now, and so deal with it. But Bad Bunny's a big deal, and super proud. I mean, he just won the Grammy for Album of the Year, the first, very, very first um,
Latino.
Latino who the whole album is in Spanish. But just like we talked about him before because right after we came back from the concert, you talk, we talked about how you dance 3 hours nonstop, and you don't even realize that you're dancing to Spanish music because it just the
It was a party.
liveliness of the party just
Yeah.
takes over, right?
Well, from him, I mean, he just electrifies the audience, and the fact that, I mean, you're not exaggerating. As if you go on either one of our social medias back in August, you'll see I took a lot of videos, and I am not kidding you. In this huge venue, he's so big. I he would like he walked right to me, like where I was sitting, and Helix is next to me. I could have reached out and I would have touched Benito. That's how
Yes.
close we were in this venue.
Yeah, find us on social media. Look up the postings back from August of 25, and you'll see plenty of pictures and videos that
It was an amazing
we
concert.
posted. And listen, at the end of the day, I love him. He's a great artist. He's super talented. But the one thing, among many things, I do admire about him is that he is unwilling to compromise who he is.
Right.
He's unwilling to compromise the love that he has for Puerto Rico and for Latin America, and he represents all Latin people. In fact, I dare to say he represents all of us. And the fact that he didn't compromise because he could have had bigger opportunities, if he sung in English, if he changed something, he didn't. And look, he still got the biggest opportunities of all. So that alone is plenty of reason to admire him, and I am one of his number one fans.
And let me just say this quick, that I am not a football guy. I mean, of course, I root for the Patriots because I'm in New England. I'm born and bred here, so of course, right? But if it wasn't for Benito, would I be watching the Super Bowl? And well, I guess I should say something a little bit differently. I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I'll watch the halftime, and because that's what I want to see. I mean, I'll periodically just peek on my phone or on if you have it on, like who's winning, because it's really cool if the Patriots win. But you know what? Whoever wins, I just go on.
I will be watching because I do not want to take a chance that I'll be missing 1 second of Bad Bunny Benito's performance. So,
Well, I got you then. I have you
so
to let me know screaming Benito's on. So
exactly. So there. But anyway, so listen, we do have to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we are going to talk about Between the Lessons, the human curriculum on grief, spirituality, and growth at midlife. And we have a special guest, Susan Chung Fontaine, who's a humanities educator and have been an educator for over 50 years. So we will take a break and we'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Welcome to Get a Grip. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co-host,
Stephen the Medium.
Stephen the Medium, is in the house. And today we're talking about life lessons. And some of life's most important lessons don't happen in classrooms. They happen in grief, they happen in midlife, and in heartbreak, and in healing. Life doesn't stop teaching us once we leave the classroom. In fact, some of the most important lessons, happen when we slow down, when we reflect, and we really listen. And we have an amazing guest today. We're joined by Susan Chung Fontaine, who is a humanities educator, a podcaster, a co-host of Between the Lines, a podcast that I believe she recently started. And she brings wisdom not just from teaching, but from living. And of course, what better team than her, my husband, and myself. So welcome to the show, Susan. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you doing?
We are excellent, Susan. Excellent to have you
Good.
here with us.
Thank you.
And by the way, Susan, before we talk about grief, spirituality, healing, I want to begin with your journey. When you look back over your life and career, how did your experiences as an educator and as a human being land you here? In this season, reflecting, and how you got to create, this Between the Lessons podcast.
Wow, that's a big question. So I'm going to do my best to answer it in a way that makes the most sense. I've been teaching now I'm in my 21st year, and it's been a tremendous journey because I think actually through teaching, there's so much I've learned about myself and about life through teaching, but I think it's also been a very healing journey for myself. I think that part of me of when I was a young teenager, when I was, sort of very young and impressionable, that to be back in the classroom, to be back in a room with teenagers in a school community, it just allowed me to, nurture, heal that young person that felt unseen, that felt so disconnected, that felt, not seen from in the world. And I take that as a teacher. I want every student, all of my students, to always be seen by me, to always be heard by me. And I think that does something for me, for my spirit, for my heart, for my journey, that I can do that for someone else because I know that I needed that so much. So that really is, I think, the core of why I really took to the classroom and really have continued all these years.
That is really amazing, Susan. And we talked about, some of the lessons that we experience, they happen in grief, right? And midlife and heartbreak and healing. As an educator, how have you witnessed that for your students, but also for yourself? Have you experienced that for yourself? And how do you blend the two as an educator?
Certainly as a teacher, with my students, there's a part of you're definitely bringing your best self, or you try to bring your best self every time you walk into the classroom. And so you have to put on your professional face. You have to, there are expectations. You're the adult in the room, so the kids are looking to you in a certain way, and you have to deliver because that's your responsibility. That's what you signed up for. But I have never been one in any instance to be able to totally separate my personal from the professional. So I do bring that part of me that is true to who I am. And so I think it's just about being present in the moment, to be able to laugh with them, being present in the moment when a student just needs someone to talk to or connect with, to be present in the moment, to to hear their curiosity and really to be curious together. so there's something about working with kids that really, I think, forces. I don't think it's just me. I think it's like most people who are in the, who work with kids, where you just have to be, you have to be present, and you cannot BS your way through it, because they will pick up on it very quickly. They will feel it very quickly, and then the connection, the relationship between us will begin breaking, and you know that kid will not be able to trust you, and you feel that immediately. And it's a little bit different between adults, because I think, we're sort of all conditioned. We all know, we're all maybe playing a certain game, by the time you become an adult, but that conditioning isn't as developed, isn't as sophisticated as when you're dealing with a kid, even a teenager. And so it requires a degree of authenticity and honesty that I think is really something that I need in my life. Like, it allows me to be in my integrity. It allows me to be the person I want to be, because I always have to be honest. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, Susan.
Yeah.
Now, as I'm listening to you, I think that when all of us, right, when we reflect on our journey, we often realize that the moments that really shaped us are, most of those moments come from unplanned situations, like loss, for example. What are some things that you have dealt with that have been a lesson for you, that then you have used as a vehicle to support, your students and to support your audience? Because I want to talk about your podcast in a few minutes.
Yeah. Gosh, I think. I grew up in a family that wasn't so connected. We weren't, it wasn't a house filled with like a lot of love and affection. There was a lot of disconnect. There was anger. There was fear. There was a lot of misunderstanding. There was a lot of self-protection. And I think growing up in that environment is, it's not great. You're not nurtured in the way that you need. You're not certainly loved in the way that you need. And so it took me a while. It took me a while. I was in therapy for many years, and just exposed to, just very open to anything where I could, that sort of nurtured and informed path to healing, like back to, just being a person that feels whole, that can move in this world and not in such a miserable way, I guess, not in such a victimized way. And so I think, just like being there, being present, and knowing that, that's what people want. I think people want to be heard. They want to feel like you see them, you hear them. I also, my father died when I was 18 years old. My sister unexpectedly died, 5 years ago. So I do know sudden, unexpected, tragic loss. And I know, so I know grief very well, and how heartbreaking it is. And I think, it just made me want to be a bit softer. I mean, it took me a while to learn. Like, I didn't learn these lessons overnight, but that I want to be a little bit more softer and be able to hear people more and see them more. And I think as we get older, I'm really learning this, in midlife, you just go through so much. And I think we go through so much that can really break you open. And how do you find your way through that so that you don't come out on the other side, whether it's broken or bitter or feeling really angry towards the world. So I think, and that is not an easy thing to do. It's like a constant journey. It requires constant attention. But I think if you can navigate it in a way that it actually allows your life to be, just that much better, much more richer and deeper and, I even think more meaningful.
Yeah, you know what, Susan, you talk about being present, you talk about grief, and I'm not sure if you know my husband Stephen, who is um, um, leading this show with me. He's here, and I'm sure from a
Hi.
spiritual perspective, he
Hi,
may have
Susan.
something to add. So go ahead, Stephen.
Susan, first, I'm so happy you're here. What
Thank you.
grade have you taught?
So I'm a high school teacher, and I've taught 9 through 12. So this year I am teaching 10th grade.
Well, listen, I have a comment and a question. The comment, first of all, is based on what I've heard already. Where were you when I was in school as a teacher? I
Yes.
just want to know, Susan, please, because like what you talked about, your dad dying. My dad died. He took his life when I was 8 years old, and
Oh, wow.
and I never had that connection. With a teacher,
Yeah.
and I was a ball of anger, and there was so much going on with me. And then,
Yeah.
fast forward, I became an attorney, and for many years, I represented kids in juvenile court. So
Oh,
I
wow.
understand. I understand what you're saying, and I think there's I'm sure a lot of similarities between the two of us and how we've dealt with children. But do you think, or like, how much do you think? Based on where you just explained, your life growing up, and myself, I went through therapy also.
Yeah.
How much of that really just lit that fire in your soul to say, I want kids that are in front of me, that are exposed to me, to not have that sort of exclusion or not that connection in families? Because if that's happening, which I'm sure it is in many kids' families, their outlet is to come to school. And I want to be that one that can fill in for that. I mean,
Yeah.
how much of your past sort of dictated to what happened with your future, or your present, rather?
Yeah. I think a lot. I think, I still remember, again, just feeling so disconnected, isolated, lonely at times, and not feeling seen at all. And to go to school every day where there's so much, there's so many expectations, so much social pressure. I remember how I felt, just and so uncomfortable in my skin. So I mean, and I'll be honest, like I don't, at this point, in my career, I don't pretend or believe that I'm like, quote unquote, saving any kid. Like, and I'm not here to save any kid. That's, that's a lot of, that would be, I think there's something unrealistic about that. I think I'm taking away power from the kid, also from that person. But there is something about, because this is what I will want. Like when I am with somebody, I want them to see me. I want them to laugh at my jokes. I want them to just listen as I'm like in whatever, if I'm in turmoil, to just be there and not like, oh, they're here because they have to be, or they're here because, what those other reasons are. But just as like, honestly, a human being to another human, like we're here, I see you, I know you're going through something, or whatever it is, however you want to connect in the moment. It is so nice. It actually fills me a lot. I really do, because it's not even just the difficult moments that sometimes kids can have, but even just the light ones of just like laughing and, jokes, and, teenagers can be, mischievous in so many different ways. Like that to me, like all of that is just, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I mean, we live in such a, the world can be so chaotic. It can be so draining at times. I think as an adult, certainly midlife, like our lives are complicated, get caught up in so much that at the end of the day, how much of it does it really matter? And so it's very grounding for me to, again, just have those moments. But certainly, like, I do remember how I felt as a teenager. And I think that it does definitely inform and has informed who I am as a teacher, and who I am as an adult, in the classroom and in my school.
Well, that's such a beautiful insight. And let's take a pause, a gentle pause. We got to do a commercial break, but hang in there, Susan. We got plenty more to talk about, and I do have a question for both you and Stephen when we come back. We'll be right back. And hello and welcome back. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co-host,
Tony Masick.
Stephen the Medium. Also, we have an amazing guest, Susan Chung, who is
Hi.
a humanities educator at Moret
Yeah.
School. And we're talking about Between the Lessons, the human curriculum on grief, spirituality, and growth at midlife. And before the break, I was just listening to you, Susan, and your perspective on grief. And of course, Stephen and I have been together for 32 years, so it's a very familiar perspective. But I heard so much authenticity in your way of supporting and guiding others. So my question is, from that authentic, perhaps spiritual perspective, what lesson does grief invite us into when we stop trying to move past it, which is really what we've been conditioned to, and instead we stay present with it, we embrace it?
Wow. That is such a great question. And when I lost my father when I was 18, it was like shocking to me, and certainly for my mother. But as I mentioned before, like my family there were just so many struggles in the family. So I didn't feel a deep emotional loss during that time. I felt it was shock. And then what I really felt during that time was my mother's loss. Just watching her go through losing her husband was like, that was what was devastating to me. So I saw like what that could do to a person and how it could totally level them. And so when I lost my sister, and I've lost people through the years, but when I lost my sister 5 years ago, that was, I mean, talk about just being leveled. I'm actually tearing up right now because I'm still going through it. I'm in a different stage than I was, the last few years. And it was so, losing her, there were so many feelings, so many emotions, so much difficulty in just accepting it. Like the acceptance piece is, has been so difficult. I think, and also when she passed, I had a lot of grief. I still have some grief. Guilt. And I do still have some guilt that I'm still working through. I think one of the things it taught me was that I would never be angry at a person like that ever again. And I didn't even know I was like that angry with her. It was just, that's my sister. We have so much history. There's all this stuff in our family. And so I didn't know how much it was, to what degree it was affecting our relationship. And then when she passed, and there was absolutely nothing I could do. You both know this, and I'm sure your listeners know this, right? You lose someone you love, and there's not one thing you can do. You can't text, you can't call, you can't show up at the house, you can't write a letter. There's nothing you can do. It's done. And to not have the ability to do anything anymore, to change it, was incredibly, it just, really humbled me, to say the least. And I just knew that, so I knew that I just could not let anger in any way affect my relationships, that I would be left with this again, this powerlessness, this regret, this guilt. It was just, because it was so overwhelming. So I would say that was definitely one of the lessons. And the other one is, as much as you can, I think, when you lose someone you love, you're going to feel, I wish I spent more time with them. I wish I hugged them more. I think that's very normal to have those feelings, and we will. But I think what I learned was that, yes, when you're with someone you love and you're giving them a hug, hug them tighter for a second longer. Just as much as you can in those moments with the people. It'll never be enough if they're taken from you, especially unexpectedly. But just the loving the person, as much as I think we can love. And this has been a hard lesson for me. It doesn't come naturally for me to just love and hug and show affection. It actually, I didn't grow up in a house like that, so it doesn't come naturally. But what I realized is that's the ultimate expression. As much as I can love and show the love that I have for a person, that's what I want to do. So yeah, I'm sure you hear my voice cracking a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
No, it just reflects on how much you love Susan, right? To be that emotional, coming from a place where I talk to dead people all the time in my business. One of the things I've learned is, you may, as you mentioned, you may not be able to do this or that or this anymore. You can't text, you can't email, you can't call. But there's so many other things you can do, but it's just different now. And the fact that the gift, I think when you walk through that grief, as Elix asked, what do you do when you're sitting in it? Those are where you can get these amazing lessons. And the fact that you just shared with everybody listening and will listen on the podcasts about that huge lesson of never being angry with anybody else or upset is, wow. I got tingles when you said that, because it just felt like, my God, look what your sister gave you. And that's something that you not only feel, but you get to share now with everybody else. So it's listening to you. I love where you are.
Thank you.
And by the way, I'm going to second that, because I often say to my guests, I wanted you to walk away with a golden nugget, and you just gave us all a beautiful bunch of nuggets. Those lessons, never ever, hold anger. Hug people, really hug them, and tell people you love them. Really, really express the love now. What a freaking beautiful lesson, Susan. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for, yeah. I mean, I do mean it so much, and it can only come about, I mean, I learned it obviously the hardest way, but it is, I think the greatest lesson that I guess I could have learned. So I just, you just sometimes don't even try. Sometimes you don't even know how much you love somebody until they're not there. So,
And you know what, Susan? One of the things I just listening to you is everything that you've learned because of this experience. What you're really
yeah,
doing with those lessons is bringing forward your sister's legacy because she
yeah,
gave that to you. And every
yeah,
time you talk about it or share that with anybody, you are honoring your sister, and she knows that.
yeah. I will say, I don't think I answered part of Felix's question about just sitting with grief. I think, I think, I early on, after she passed, again, the sadness and the loss and the guilt were so overwhelming, and I knew that I had to like forgive myself because otherwise I just didn't know how I was going to like live my life, and so. And I would agree also with what you said, Felix. Like in our culture, in American culture, we just don't quite know what to do with grief. We sort of maybe, if you're lucky, you get a couple of days off from work. But I didn't really, and people, and I appreciated people, just giving their condolences and all of that. I know sometimes there's mixed feelings around that. But you're really at a loss, especially when it is such a profound loss. You really don't, there's nothing much in our culture that sort of guides you or can comfort you, really. So it felt like I really had to navigate this on my own. And there was no getting away from it. And because I realized, how much I loved her, how much I missed her, how much I just would have done anything to have her back. I just didn't want it in any way, like, I guess, like, dishonor her or in any way, like, move away from the grief. I wanted to go through it, to, that's what felt right. But it definitely felt like I felt like I had to almost do it on my own. I mean, I searched out groups, I searched out support, but you really have to search it out. It's not like present in the air that we breathe in our culture.
I agree with you. We got to take another gentle
Yeah.
pause, Susan. We do need to do another break. Hang in there with us. We have
Yeah.
more questions for you. And so we'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, with me, my amazing co-host,
Stephen the Medium.
and also our amazing guest, Susan Chung Fontaine, who is a humanities educator at the Moret School and the co-host of the podcast Between the Lessons. And in fact, that's exactly what we're talking about, Between the Lessons, the human curriculum on grief, spirituality, and growth at Midlife. Susan, welcome back.
Yes. Hi.
And
Thank you.
hi. So I want to pick it up on that. Let's talk a little bit about midlife. Midlife has a way of getting our attention. It often becomes that mirror reflecting back on the life that we've lived and asking us who we've become right now.
Yeah.
So why does midlife bring so much reflection and reevaluation? And what lessons do you think people tend to resist most during our midlife stage, Susan?
Well, I think that it brings about so much reflection because, in part, we live in a youth-obsessed culture. And when you enter midlife, there's just no getting around it where you're just like, wow, I'm not young anymore. I'm not young anymore. I'm in this period of time where, I'm still, active. I have like a full life in many ways, but I'm not young anymore. I'm looking at the second part of my life. I'm maybe grappling with my own mortality, and a good amount of time has passed, and I think that alone just invites so much reflection too, of just like, wow, decades have gone by at this point. Where am I? Do I like myself today? Is my life? I mean, this is a question I've been asking myself a lot recently. Am I fulfilled? And I'll be quite honest. I think I was avoiding that question. I was not being honest with myself because the answer was no. I didn't feel fulfilled, and I was, I just turned 50, and I'm like, okay, well, I just spent 5 decades and I'm not fulfilled, and now I'm like, how am I going to figure this out? Do I have the tools to figure it out? Do I have am I going to figure this out? And am I going to be able to figure it out before it's too late? And I think it's like, you have to ask yourself, I don't know, you just come to terms with some really hard truths that maybe you didn't have to before. And so it's been a very interesting time. But what has been unexpected was that once I did ask myself the hard questions and I did get honest with myself, I was just like, oh wow, I don't know. I felt like my life just got deeper. I felt like, oh, my life feels more meaningful now. Oh, like I have a little bit more agency in my life now. Oh, sort of the expectations of, being young and what all those things are, like, because they sort of don't pertain to me anymore, I get to kind of now create new rules and new expectations for myself. Because I think to some degree in American society, American culture, they don't really know what to do with midlife women. And I see this as like, now in like popular culture, women my age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, who again, really are living, trying to live their best lives, trying to live the most fulfilling lives, are rewriting the rules about what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a woman of this age. And I think you can have actually the most fulfilling years at this point in time.
That's beautiful, Susan. I cannot believe, I just said to Stephen, I cannot believe the hour has just flown by, because just listening to you felt really effortless. So as we are at the top of the hour and we are ready to complete the show, what would you be willing to give our listeners as a takeaway, for them perhaps to, how they can listen to the lessons, how they can use the lessons to stay grounded when life feels uncertain for them? What takeaway would you, or nugget would you give our listeners?
Well, they can listen to my podcast with my friend Kevin Yee, Between the Lessons. But I think the one thing that I have really come to understand that has, I feel that it's only deepening and expanding in the best possible ways, is get to know yourself, like your full truth, your integrity, what is your heart, your soul, your spirit. Because I think when you're in touch with yourself, when you know yourself in the most loving way, in the most like, I value myself, I respect myself, I think you can just go out into the world in actually the most like beautiful way. And I do I think, all the people say it, all the like the wise gurus and spiritual teachers. But I think, your reality starts with yourself. And if you're not connected to yourself, if you don't love yourself, then I think life is difficult. But if you can start there, and give and really, again, love yourself and value yourself, I think your life can be really, really beautiful. And I think, you can, just experience some of the most best things. So that would be the nugget that I'd want to share.
I love that. And let's talk about how people can get a hold of you. You talk about your podcast. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and tell us about how people can get in a hold of you.
Yeah, so our podcast is Between the Lessons. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Podbean. You can listen to us there. We're also on YouTube. We started that. So we have, I think, about 4 or 5 shows on YouTube. So again, YouTube, Between the Lessons, we're there. You can find me on IG, on Instagram, _Susan Chung, SUSANCHUNG. And then our podcast also on IG, Between the Lessons. So yeah, you can find me on socials. I hope people will. I so appreciate you for having me on your show. This has been such a great conversation, and I have, so much love and respect for you and all the amazing work you're doing too. Both of you.
Thank you. And by the way, for transparency purpose, Susan has an amazing husband, and I am a super fan, and he's one of my favorite people in the world. That's how we got connected. So, Susan, thank you for sharing your time, your attention with us so generously. And stay tuned, because I promise we are going to invite you back. There's plenty more to talk about.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we close today, here's what I hope stays with all of you who are listening. Grief can become a teacher, midlife can become a mirror, and spirituality can become an anchor. So thank you for spending time with us. And Stephen, tell people where they can find you, where they can find us. What are you up to?
Well, it's pretty simple. Stephen the Medium. StephenTheMedium.com, Stephen the Medium social media. I'm Stephen the Medium everywhere. I should just have a plane, write it in the sky. Stephen the Medium, right?
And Stephen, what did you walk away today? What was your biggest learning lesson today? Listening to Susan.
I mean, there was a lot. I mean, just hearing, especially where I came from, of representing kids for many, many years, and just hearing the same sort of similar perspective and story, and there's a lot of heaviness, when you're dealing with kids, regardless of whether they're in a good place or not a good place, and you just have the capabilities of just giving them what they need. So
and for me, I will tell you, I wrote it down. Do not hold on to anger, because anger only hurts me. Really hug people, like tightly. So I'm gonna give you the biggest hug when I see you next, and love people. Really tell them you love them. Don't miss the opportunity to tell people that. I think for me that was the absolute biggest lesson among many things.
That's good.
So I'm really appreciative of today's show, and I hope you got as much insight from the show as Stephen and I did. And until next time, stay present, stay curious, and keep listening to what life is teaching you. We'll see you again next week. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Go Patriots. Go Bad Bunny. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.